Okay, so our first couple examples, we're going to start out with just a review. So find the indicated measure. Letter A says find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 9 centimeters. So we're trying to find circumference. We can either use pi d or we can use 2 pi r. Because we were given the radius, I'm going to choose to use 2 pi r. So the circumference is 2 pi, and then our radius is 9. Now, when we do this in our chapter, anytime you see pi, okay, pi not 3.14. So make sure you're either using the Desmos calculator or your calculator. If you type in 3.14 for pi, you're going to get the answer wrong by 0.10 or 0.100th. You're going to be off by just a little bit. And given that all of your tests are in Canvas, it's going to make you be very specific. So if you're using your calculator, you're going to hit 2, and then you're going to come down here, and you see this little pi button on the bottom left-hand side? Click that pi button, and then you get a whole option of things, and you want pi 9. Okay, so 2 times pi times 9. If you hit enter, it's going to give you 18 pi, which is the exact answer. But I don't want 18 pi because everything you're going to be doing here is going to be rounded. So we're going to go back up. You're going to hit Control Enter, which is going to give you 56.55 if you round it. So we're going to say the circumference is 56.55 centimeters, and that's the distance around the entire circle. Okay, letter B, find the radius of a circle with a circumference of 26 meters. So this time we still know we're trying to find a radius and we're dealing with a circumference. So circumference, I'm still going to deal with 2 pi r. But this time it told me that the circumference was 26, 2 pi, and I'm trying to find the radius, so leave it as a variable. Now we're just going to solve this equation. I can do it in one step. If I want to get the radius alone, I'm going to divide by 2 pi. Okay, over here I'm going to have my radius. In my calculator, I'm going to hit Control Divide, and actually I'll show you that too. So you get a nice neat fraction, Control Divide. It looks like that. And then 26, go down to grab that pi button. Okay, no typing 3.14, otherwise your answer is going to be off. And then Control Enter. 4.14 if we round. So your radius is 4.14 meters. Okay, now that was review. Moving on to arc length. Find the indicated measure. And it says letter A, find the arc length of AB. Now, we already know how to find the circumference of the whole circle. So if I found circumference of the whole circle, the circumference would be 2 pi r. So in this case, I'd have 2 times pi times my radius. If I'm looking at my circle, they gave me a radius of 8. So my circumference is 16 pi. I could round that, but for right now I'm going to leave it like that. Now, that's the whole way around the circle, but I don't want the whole way around the circle. I only want from A to B. Well, from A to B, my central angle is 60 degrees. So I'm going to take my 60 degrees out of the whole circle, which gets me my ratio, and then I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by 16 pi. So in my calculator, what that's going to look like is I'm going to have Control Divide. I'm going to type 60 divided by 360. Go off to the side. You can hit times, you don't have to. And then 16 pi. And then Control Enter, which means the length of AB is 8.38. So we've got 8.38, and we're dealing with centimeters. Centimeters, and that is just the distance from A to B, not the whole way around the circle. That's arc length. Okay, Now we're going to make it harder. So now they are telling you that the arc length from XY is 4.19 inches, and they want you to find the circumference of the entire circle. Okay, so we're going to do this in two different ways, and you get to pick your favorite one. So, method one, we're going to use the formula. Okay, so the formula says that arc length equals the measure of the arc out of 360, sorry, times the circumference. Okay, so this time I'm given that the arc length is 4.19 inches equals the measure of the arc that kind of corresponds to is 40 degrees out of 360, and we're going to multiply that by the circumference. Well, the good news here is we're trying to find the circumference, so we just need to solve for c. If you want to get c by itself, I have to get rid of 40 divided by 360, so I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, meaning I'm going to multiply both sides by 360 divided by 40. Okay, so that guy will cancel that guy will cancel that guy. Over here, you're going to be left with circumference. And then on the left, I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to type it in my personal calculator here. I'm going to hit Control Divide, 360 over 40, go off to the side, times 4.19. I'm going to hit Control Enter, and I got 37.71. So the circumference of the entire circle is 37.71 inches. Okay, that's method one using the formula. Now, method two. And this is using a ratio. Now, the ratio we're talking about here is we're saying, okay, I know that 40 degrees corresponds with 4.19 inches. And I know that that 40 degrees is out of the whole circle, which is 360. So, if I take 360 and I cut it up into sections of 40 degrees, and one of those sections is 4.19, then I should be able to multiply that by 4.19 and figure out how many of those 4.19 sections go into like the whole circle. So I'd have another 4.19, I'd have another 4.19, I'd have another 4.19, okay, as it kind of goes around. So we're going to do 360 over 40, and let's see what we get. So Control Divide, 360 divided by 40 out to the side times 4.19. Control Enter, 37.71 is the whole way around the circle. Okay, whatever works best in your head. Next one, find the measure of RS. Okay, now when they say the measure of RS with that little symbol at the top of it, they're talking about the arc. So from R to S, we're right here. And I don't know how many degrees that is. So on this one, I'm going to choose to use the formula. So arc length equals the measure of the arc out of 360 times the circumference. So arc length, in this case, from R to S, they're telling me is 44. Now, the measure of the arc is what I don't know. It's x degrees. That's what I'm trying to find. So I'm just going to put an x up here out of 360, and then I have to multiply by the circumference. Well, they didn't give me circumference, but they did give me this measure, which looks like a radius. So circumference is either pi d or 2 pi r. So I'm going to use 2 pi r. And now I have that fantastic equation, and I have to solve that for x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 360 denominator. I really don't like it. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 360. Now over on the left, 360 times 44 is 15,840. Over on the right, the only thing that's going to happen is that's going to cancel that and everything else is going to stay the same. So you're still going to have x times 2 pi times 15.28, and now you're trying to get x alone. So at that point, we've only got one more step. We're going to divide by 2 pi times 15.28 and divide by 2 pi times 15.28. So that whole thing will cancel and you're going to be left with x. Then on the other side, again, make sure you use control divide. 15,840, and then on the bottom, 2 pi times 15.28, and you should get 164.99 if you're rounding. And then x, remember, is your central angle, so degrees. That's what we were solving for. Okay, find the radius of circle G. Radius. Okay, so let's see. Arc length equals the measure of the arc out of 360 times the circumference. So in this case, the arc length that I'm given is 10.5 feet equals the measure of the arc that corresponds with that, they told me was 150 out of 360 times circumference. Now, circumference, think about this. It's either pi d or 2 pi r, and we're trying to find r. So I'm just going to write 2 pi r. Okay, solving for r, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that nasty fraction. So in order to get rid of 150 over 360, you multiply by the reciprocal. So the whole side over here, 360 divided by 150. So over on the left, I'm going to do control divide 360 divided by 150 off to the side times 10.5, and I got 25.2. Over on the right, this guy cancels this guy cancels this guy, and you get 2 pi r. Now, solving for r, you're going to divide by 2 pi, you're going to divide by 2 pi, those are going to cancel, you're going to get your radius, and then in your calculator, you're going to take 25.2 divided by 2 pi. Control Enter, 4.01. And we're talking about feet. So your radius is 4.01 feet.